Hey Amelia, hey Peter, hey Gon, hey Stephen. Welcome to science class. Sorry it couldn't be in real life, but hey, that's just the way things are. Now let's get right down to it, okay? The last lesson we had in class was all about the weather. Now in weather, we talk about what weather is, and that is, what's the air like outside? I'm sure since you were a little tiny child that you've always been asked, how's the weather? It is sunny. How's the weather? It is snowy. You've heard the songs before. All right. Well, when we talk about weather now, we want more specific things. We want to know how to measure weather. One of the first things that we measure in weather is the temperature. Now, the temperature is how hot or how cold something is. We went over this a little bit, and as to why it is very important to start with temperature. We talk about things like air temperature. Air temperature is just how hot or cold it is outside. We talked about body temperature. We take body temperatures to know if everything is working normally. If we're so hot, we may be sick. If we're so cold, we may get sick. So we have to keep monitoring that to make sure that we're quite healthy. We may measure things like water temperature, and water temperature is good whether or not you can, say, go swimming or cook food if it's super hot. And knowing all this helps us make predictions on, or help us make preparations for what we need to do. So if it's going to be a hot day outside, if we check the temperature, we know that we don't have to wear things like sweaters and jackets and scarves to stay warm. We could just wear our regular t-shirt and jeans clothes. If it is too cold, or if we see on the thermometer that there's only that much, or the number is small, then we know that we might need to put on a sweater, or that we may need to put on a jacket. The exercise that we did in class was looking at a thermometer. That is the easiest method we use to measure temperature. Thermometers are classically, or in the old days, used with a small glass tube that has red fluid in it that creeps up if it's hotter or goes down if it's colder. And so essentially, the more red you see, the hotter it is. The less red you see, the colder it is. Our exercise that we did was we took our body temperature with the thermometer in the lobby and found out that everybody had a temperature of about 36 degrees. In our books, we colored that to look at what it would look like on a glass thermometer. Now, before I go on, there are two systems of measurement. There is the one system that begins with F over here, called Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is typically only used in the United States and other countries. The other measurement, which most of the world uses, is called centigrade, or C. When we took our temperature in centigrade at 36 degrees. Here in the book, it says color the thermometer to show 80 degrees F, or, as I said, Fahrenheit. Now, we can use a crayon in this case, I will go ahead and use my painting program to fill it in. Now, if it's 80 degrees and it's F, we look on the F side, Fahrenheit side. There's 80, and we just color it all the way in. There we go. Nice and easy, right? And a temperature of 80 degrees is pretty hot. You know, not super hot as if it were, say, much, much hotter. If it were 100 degrees Fahrenheit, oh my God, super hot. That's how hot it gets back in my home in Florida. We can have some pretty hot days. That's almost 40 degrees centigrade, as you would see here in Korea. All right, now I want to go on to the next measurement. So we've learned that we use temperature to measure how hot or cold it is. That can tell us, again, what kind of weather we're coming up again. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is rain. How much rain falls in an area? Why is this important? Well, let's discuss that now. Now in your book, rain, snow, sleet, and hail are forms of water that fall from the sky. A rain gauge is a tool that measures how much water falls. Why is it important to know how much water falls in a given area? Well, it may not be as important for you as kids, other than, oh, it's going to be a very, very rainy day today. But for people like, say, those who have to grow plants, would you not say that having more rain is a good thing in many cases? Now, some plants don't need as much water. Some plants need a lot of water. Knowing on average how much rain falls in a given area can tell you the best kinds of plants to grow there. So how do we measure that? Well, we use what is called a rain gauge. A rain gauge is a tool, most often like a bottle, that has the markings on it, just like on the screen in your book, page 261. These rain gauges in America are measured in inches. In Korea, they are measured in centimeters. How do we measure? Well, we just leave a tube out in the middle of the rain, or a rain gauge outside, and when it finishes raining, we go out and check it. So, let's see. Color the rain gauge to show that 3 inches of rain fell. Well, if water is trickling down from the sky, then we are going to have to fill up from the bottom. So 3 inches, easy enough. We just go 1, 2, 3. 3 inches of water. Of course, the whole thing will be filled up. Now, we measure how much water falls in a day, and we keep logs of that, or a journal, over a long period of time, like within a year, so that we can tell when is the best time to grow something, what are the best things to grow. Obviously, in a very hot, sandy place like a desert, you're not going to get too much rain. You're not going to be able to grow very much. But in a, say, warm tropical place, you're going to get a lot more rain, so you can grow a lot more plants. Go ahead and fill in your book right now if you haven't already. fill it up to the 3-inch mark as demonstrated. If you can, take yourself a paper cup or something and measure how deep it is with a ruler. Using that, and then next time you know it's going to rain or think it's going to rain, leave the cup outside and see how much water collects in it during the rain part. That might be a fun thing to try. All right, so go ahead and fill that in now. Or, I'm sorry, go ahead and fill that in. And I will check up with you next time. The next lesson that we're going to do is talking about how we take things like the temperature of the air and the amount of rainfall and making what we call a prediction of the weather. All right, until next time, see you later. Bye.